Hello and welcome to the Newsmakers podcast. Today we're going to talk about the ductless technology. We're talking with Michelle LaFrance, who is the founder of the Ductless Directory and also a marketing consultant for many HVAC contractors. Hope you enjoy the conversation. And I'm going to bring in Michelle LaFrance, who is the founder of the Ductless Directory and also a marketing consultant for HVAC contractors. Thanks for joining us today, Michelle.
Thank you, Kyle, so much for having me. I'm very excited to share this time with you today.
Yeah, so how did you get involved in the ductless side of the business and probably the HVAC business itself?
Yes, great question. I always like to find out how people arrived in this industry. We all have a story. My story is this. I started my company back in Portland, Oregon, and during the first part of the company, I was heavily networked with the Home Building Association. So I worked with builders, remodelers, and some of the trades. And during this time, I did a website for an HVAC contractor in Vancouver, Washington. But primarily, I worked with builders and remodelers. And everything was going really, really well. And I'm talking about the years from 2001 until 2008. And then we have what I call the biggest buzzkill of the decade, and that was that massive recession, right, in 2008. And it was devastating. And it was devastating for me, too, because in a snap of a finger, I lost my entire target audience. And like everybody else, was wondering how to survive the economic downturn. And then I got a call one day from that HVAC contractor that I had done business with years before. And this was a decent-sized contractor that had a big sheet metal shop and parts and inventory and salespeople and a business to run. And he confided in me that the economy had just taken a toll on his business, and he, too, wasn't sure if he could survive. And he asked me this really important question, and it was, Michelle, can you help me become number one in search results for the ductless heat pump? And I enthusiastically said, yes, I can. And then there was a long silence, and I had to ask him, what's a ductless heat pump?
Exactly.
I had never heard of it before, but yes, we can do that. And so he gave me some literature, and I read up on it, and we provided some content and added it to his website. In very short order, I started getting some emails. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for what you've done for my business. And keep in mind, this is a time where I'm more of a psychologist because everybody's so depressed, right? So I'm loving getting these emails. And so it turns out, I said, Tim, what is happening? He said, I'm booked out 6 weeks. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So I said, well, let's just keep, making this better. And then if you fast forward to the end of the year, there was an organization that had a ductless heat pump seminar in Portland, Oregon, and it was for the entire Pacific Northwest, big contractors from Seattle coming down and the big contractors in Portland and from all over. And they're going to give out an award for the best and the biggest ductless contractor in the area. Now, I'm sitting at a lunch table, and I hear a contractor from Seattle, not really boasting, but kind of like excited, like, hey, we sold 28 of these. And, my eyes, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be big news. People are going to be so surprised when they hear what's going to happen because I knew my guy was getting the award. And another contractor at the table said, oh, that's nothing. We sold 42. And so I'm like, okay, wow. And so sure enough, they give the award, and the guy from Vancouver, Washington wins the Ductless Contractor of the Year for selling 364 ductless heat pumps. Yeah. You could hear a pin drop, right?
Right.
And it was like all of a sudden every contractor knew, like, this is a game changer. And I told my client, I said, you now have a target on your back, and so now we're going to buckle down. And so we continue to have them be successful. And during the worst years, 08, 09, 10, 11, this is a contractor that was 25 years old, so he was no small potatoes himself, but those were the best years ever in his company. So
that's great.
Isn't it? And from a marketing perspective, we love that. And so what ended up happening is the Portland contractor sought me out and he said, hey, can you make me the ductless guy in Portland? Can you do for me what you did in Vancouver? And then the Salem guy and the Eugene guy, and then all over the place people started reaching out to me. And that's how I arrived in this position, which I'm very grateful for.
Sure. Now, does ductless need to be marketed in a different way than other HVAC technologies?
I think so. I think as a general rule, the HVAC industry suffers from not necessarily having an exciting product. So when we look at other appliances in the house, even today, the refrigerator has become very sophisticated and advanced and sexy. It's doing all these things, and it's not a white box anymore, right?
Right.
And so people are like, wow, look at my refrigerator, and the stove has become that way, and even the washer and dryer have become color, and then people get excited. And in the HVAC industry, the heating and cooling equipment is a box still that exists in the basement or in the garage. So we now have an opportunity to have something exciting happen. And when was the last time something exciting happened in the HVAC industry? So I think oftentimes what I see happening is here's this opportunity for an extraordinary product. It's transforming the way people heat and cool their home, and yet it's getting vanilla-ized. It's just another page that gets added to an already busy website. And so there's an opportunity to not just tell, but to really sell and make this exciting. I talk to people a lot about recognizing windows of opportunity. And so in a general sense, there is a window of opportunity to really embrace the ductless technology and advance yourself, right? Because people are still discovering it. And if I could, I want to tell you about this particular story up in the Iron Range of northern Minnesota. It's about 3.5 hours north of Minneapolis, about an hour south of the Canadian border, so it's somewhat remote. But this is an example, and I think this is happening in other places in the country as well. The city of Hibbing, Minnesota, has announced that it will cease supplying steam heat by the year, I think it's 2022. So what does that mean? People that heat their home with boilers now need to find a different way. Right. And it's in the land of 10,000 lakes, and so people have a house and they have a cabin, which needs air conditioning. It is a wonderful window of opportunity for a ductless contractor to come in and say, hey, I have this product and it's going to solve all these problems for you. In Hibbing, there's 1,900 homes and 200 businesses, and a neighboring city announced the same thing. And so this window of opportunity exists. I am looking for a contractor and a manufacturer to support in that area to really take ductless and capitalize on some sales that are available. And so these windows of opportunities are happening all the time, and we help contractors recognize them.
That's great. Where do you, in regards to like the general public, obviously ductless is a newer technology in this country, not so much overseas, but one that people aren't as familiar with. How do you find the knowledge of ductless in terms of the general homeowner, and has that changed in the last maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years? I know ductless is a growing market.
Yeah, for sure it's growing. And so this is the thing, from a marketing and even from an SEO point of view, Google favors the early adopters. So I always encourage contractors to get their online marketing in place now. But I do think it varies from different parts in the country. Even in Portland, Oregon, where it's very popular, you still find many people that have never heard about what it is. And these people are oftentimes out there looking, so they might not be ready to buy, but people are researching and they're asking questions, right? What is it? Is it good for a cold climate like Minnesota? Does it help with this? And so that's an excellent time to be positioning yourself, is when people are asking the questions. And the reason I think it's so important to pre-position and establish yourself in a marketplace is these people are the happiest customers ever, right? Yeah. They go ductless and they're saving money, and people aren't getting sick in their home anymore, and they can put their furniture where they want it, and the list goes on and on. So it's an exciting time for sure in the industry. It's an exciting opportunity for contractors.
So if a contractor either has just getting into ductless or has been in ductless and is thinking about their marketing program, I guess, is SEO the top thing on that list because so many people are searching for it, or would it be something else?
It's both. I think for contractors, there are 2 super important things. The first thing is you have to differentiate yourself from other contractors. I mean, in Minneapolis or St. Paul area, I don't know, there's probably 1,000 contractors. That's a lot, right? Yep. And so you have to differentiate yourself by crafting a meaningful message that is meaningful to the customer. And then the second thing is you have to dominate the search results, right? And And what most contractors don't know is that map has got a separate algorithm. So we don't just look at the website, like get on that map. And if you're a distributor or manufacturer listening to this, you grow market share by taking a city and town, and Google only puts 3 contractors on that map. And Google doesn't tell you that there's literally 1,000 different terms, heating and cooling terms. So if your contractor gets found for 1,000 different heating and cooling or ductless terms, then you're going to grow your business. So SEO becomes very, very important because Google favors the early adopters. The sooner you get in, the more stable Google sees you. So it's a big part of the story. And I'm going to tell you a little story about this, and this is Duluth, Minnesota, because now I live in Minnesota. All right, I came back in Duluth, Minnesota, maybe 100,000 people. It exists on the North Shore of Lake Superior. I have no great wisdom. I just chose that place because I like to go there. It's scenic and it's beautiful, and I love being in Duluth. Okay. So I thought, I want to test out the competitive landscape in Minnesota. So I put I call it my pilot site. I put a little 5-page ductless site in Duluth, Minnesota. And in weeks, it pops up on the first page of search results. Why is this important? It tells me that what the existing contractors are doing in that territory is not very strong, because some of those contractors have a website with 300 or 400 pages, and my little 5-page website shows up on the first page. So I called up my SEO because I was traveling that week, and I said, hey, put my little pilot site in the Ductless Directory, and let's see what happened. And it literally catapulted it to the top of the search result, outranking everything in the territory. So I bring this up because dominating search results is important. You won't get the lead unless you have visibility. So what we do for contractors and manufacturers is double their visibility. We give them more credibility. We help them dominate the search result, and that's an important piece of the puzzle.
Okay, now once you do that, right, once you get the person to your website, what are obviously there's more than a few benefits of ductless, but what kind of cuts through the noise to make it more interesting, or just something the homeowner will click on and really think about? What are the benefits of ductless that really register with the homeowner?
Yes, I like this question because there's more than one reason. And so, we need to start understanding the client that's in front of us. So people have different reasons. I think one of the most underrated messages that I don't see getting used often enough is about indoor air quality. I moved back to Minnesota and I started hearing people, they didn't even know, that I was the ductless marketing expert. I was listening to conversations, right? And they're like, oh gosh, fall is coming, we've got to turn the furnace on. And every year, we just don't feel so good when the furnace comes on. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I go, seriously? And she's like, yeah, we just kind of feel a little funky and wanky and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, well, you're forcing air through ductwork. I mean, when was the last time you cleaned your ductwork? And, did you know? And she's like, no, we didn't know, right? So there's a huge segment. I think of it as vertical markets. So a contractor could just go after people that have allergies or asthma and present this as a way to start solving some problems. But some people are really motivated by saving. Baseboard heating out in the Pacific Northwest is very, very expensive. So is boiler. It's very expensive. So it's reducing your bill. So I think to find the most for contractors to, when they speak to their audience, or even to go mine in a certain area, but to really find out the predominant reason and then start value stacking. So if someone's interested in having better indoor air quality, go and sell that, and then you start stacking the value, and you're going to save money, and you start adding all the values to it. So I think that there is a strategy in terms of speaking to customers about it.
Okay, that's good to know. Really appreciate the time here. I'll get you out of this on this question. We talked a little at the beginning about Ductless Directory, and then you alluded to it, I think maybe the answer to the question before. Why don't you just explain to our contractor audience what the Ductless Directory is all about and what it does?
Thank you for that question. It's hands down the best SEO that any ductless contractor can participate in. And the reason for that is for 12 years my company has been marketing ductless, so we have experience. And with experience comes knowledge. And with knowledge comes the power to know how to present this product. And I never created the Ductless Directory to sell leads. I think the industry is inundated with people that sell leads. I created the Ductless Directory to bring a meaningful message and to support the industry that has supported me. So the Ductless Directory is for the consumer. A consumer can come here and come to a third-party, non-biased place to learn about ductless. What are the benefits? I put a solutions section in the website so they could self-identify themselves, like, hey, are you remodeling? Are you going to convert an attic or a basement? That's a great time to go ductless. And I have a resource section in there where I want to support the qualified ductless contractor. And so I educate the consumer that the number one, the most important thing that you can do is hire the right ductless contractor. If you get that right, everything else will fall into place. And I do that because this industry, is being encroached upon with online vendors and Home Depot. And if you're a contractor and you like to be elevated and you need an advocate, I do that in the Ductless Directory. I don't want the leads. We push all the traffic to the contractor, and they subscribe. Basic membership is $27 a month, or the high efficiency is $297 a month, and you can tap into our marketing expertise with videos and other things. So the Ductless Directory is the first step in a proven process that gets resolved. Step number two in our world is you can tap into my company to do a dedicated ductless site. This is what I did in Duluth. And so in a competitive marketplace or any place you just want to gain market share, we do our dedicated ductless sites. And then step number three is to sharpen your sales skills. And one of the things that's so precious in any industry, but especially in a competitive industry like the HVAC, is you got to get the leads. All right, get the leads. That's really important. Well, how do you convert more of those leads? And by understanding personality science and by understanding the message, the right message to the right consumer will help you close more sales in less time. And I have become a trainer for a personality science-based methodology that's pretty revolutionary. So it's a three-step process. Get listed in the directory, get a dedicated ductless site to help you get more leads, and then sharpen your sales skills. So I like an easy three-step process.
Absolutely. Perfect. Well, Michelle, really appreciate you sharing the ductless and marketing knowledge with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.